Alright, folks, how's it going? So we're back with the Ancient Egyptian Book of Two Ways, 4,000-year-old coffin text, and map of the stars and land masses. Well, the Book of Two Ways is, primarily a map of the land masses, and then the map of the stars would be on the other side of the coffin, on the coffin lid. This is on the coffin bottom. So anyway, this is Australia here. I eventually realized that he's actually retrograde, basically. Yeah, I think he's retrograde, and then these guys are all prograde, which is weird because this is the map of... This is the map of Jehudi Hotep, where most of these guys are prograde. This is the only one, I think, that's retrograde in this section of the map. So it took me a while to figure it out. And it's, it's pretty stylized, of course. But usually they go with whatever's the most distinctive, topographical, geographical feature. And so in the case of Australia, it's the this peninsula, the York, Cape York, and B, it's the Great Barrier Reef that abuts it. So that's, his horns are the Great Barrier Reef, and you can even see it's the same. They basically got all the different contours in there and angles of the Great Barrier Reef, and then his face is just this peninsula. So, and then he's holding Sulawesi, which is actually... Alright, so to depict this, I had to usually I would flip this. When these are retrograde, I usually flip them. The only reason I flipped Australia itself instead is because these are all prograde. So I figured, instead of flipping all these, I'll just flip this. So, the fact that Australia is retrograde may be connected to the fact that, he's kind of the first gatekeeper once... after you leave Antarctica, he's the first one back on the eastern hemisphere, I think. So it's like changing orientations. So anyways, this is Sulawesi, which is basically the mascot of this whole area, which makes sense because if you're in Asia, Sulawesi is one of the first things you run into to realize you're going towards Australia. And it's one of the most distinctive islands on this planet because look at it, it's very weird, and weird is good for map making. So yeah, he's holding, symbolically he's holding Sulawesi, and his face is the York, Cape York. Seems that maybe his arm is like this part. And then, but his legs, he's seated and his legs come down on the front of the chair, throne or whatever. So at first I was thinking it was just this little peninsula here, which is the Cobourg Peninsula, which is kind of shaped like that. But then I was realizing it probably also includes these islands here, the Tiwi Islands, as the legs, as the lower part of the legs, because notice the upper, the thighs are really thick, so his thighs are thick there, and then his knee is really thin, so that's like this part, but then it's a little wider on the bottom of his legs, so that's, I think, the Tiwis, Melville and Bathurst or something. So And then, so that, yeah, that's Sulawesi, which is part of Indonesia, I believe. And then this is, so I think this is this guy. This is Kalimantan, which is also, I believe, part of Indonesia. Indonesia is huge, like, really. But anyway, so this is part of Indonesia, and it's actually the closest one to Sulawesi. So I think that's why it's the one besides Australia. It's the one that just holds one of these. And because it's right there, even though he might actually be flipped too. So it's like this is correct in terms of the orientation of Sulawesi, but he himself, his body might be flipped. Like this might be his head right there facing this way, and this might be his tail. So I'm not entirely sure about that. This one seems to be this guy. This is the Philippines, and this is this long island. I forget what it's called, but I think that might be his kind of Heka staff. And there's even some other little islands here that could be kind of like the curve on it. And then this guy has a longer Heka staff. So I'm thinking that he's Papua, and his Heka staff. Well, this is like, forget what this is called, island, but New Britain, I think. But then I think this part is the Heka staff, is this island chain, basically the Solomon Islands, and it might go as far as Vanuatu and New Caledonia. I'm not sure, because he has like clearly a longer Heka staff, you know, because it extends below. I think this is his arm. It extends lower than the arm and higher. So, and then this guy seems to just be, you know, New Zealand. And this face is actually an island that's right here, but I blew it up bigger because they often, you know, blow up certain features like they do with this peninsula and islands here. And then he's holding Sulawesi just to symbolize that he's the last of this section, I guess, of the Sulawesi section of the world. But again, he kind of seems like maybe they're all flipped. Like because it seems like this side should be this side. So maybe these are all, I should flip every one of them. But then I don't know. But I'm pretty certain on the identities of all these, at least, even though I'm not entirely sure their orientation, like how they're supposed to be depicted. Which direction they face and everything. So there you go. That's like the Southeast Pacific. This is his horns, the you know, Great Barrier Reef. So you can see it is kind of like some horns. And there even is kind of like a mouth maybe right here. You know, here's the horns again, the Great Barrier Reef. And here's another one. So yeah, definitely makes sense that why his avatar would incorporate the reef in that way. Okay, so this one I've been trying to show for a while, but I haven't had time in any of my videos. So this is the other version of the Falklands from the SEPI map, I believe, the somewhat earlier map. So in the other one, he's a bird, and these are all his feathers and stuff. But in this earlier one, he's a squirrel, which is kind of what I thought he was when I first saw him. He kind of looks like a little squirrel with his little like ears and stuff. And they do show his ear, at least this ear, they show it pretty much the correct shape. And then he has these two knives. So this is like the squirrel you really don't want to fuck with. And then here, this is, you know, their version of the East Falklands one. And in this one, they even include his dick. So you can see it right there in front of the second leg. So that confirms that this is the back leg. This is not the tail. The tail is this part back here. And I think it's all a lot of this stuff is all included as the tail there. And then these are the legs, and there's the dick, and there's the horns. And then, yeah, and this guy's body, of course, twists around that way and in some way. So that's pretty cool. That's the Falklands. I think they're called the Lords of Wind or something because it's really windy. It's like a shitty place to try to sail. This is just another version showing Antarctica where, you know, but this one shows the East Antarctica larger as it is. So here's, you know, here's his face, here's his body, here's the South Pole, here's this guy's face, here's the hand. And this might be his butt, because I think their butts are like an important part of this, and in the spell addressed to them, it references that. The hinder parts. So yeah, it's like East Antarctica got a big old